Hi, my friends. I'm back to make another video, and this one is going to be about the shame spirals. The shame spirals. Okay, so something I've noticed is that when you go long enough in your life through a period of isolation, and especially for people who've experienced abuse, neglect, isolation, estrangement, abandonment, all that stuff, when you go through that kind of othering, or really just like going through experiencing a lack of belonging for long enough, something that the mind does, the human mind does, is it will mentally spiral and create loops of shame, basically, or other, mental spiral thoughts. Um, and the reason that this happens is because the pain of isolation, estrangement, lacking belonging, not being seen, heard, witnessed, not being connected, that pain is equivalent to death on the level of the nervous system. Because, in case you didn't know, we all of those things, the opposite of all of those things, connection, belonging, witnessing, sharing, those are basic human needs. They define what it means to be human. We're interconnected creatures, and we require social thriving, ritual, singing, dancing, sharing, weeping, grieving, all of this. We require that in order to flourish as humans. So when we don't have it, especially for those who experience abuse and, a loss of control over those conditions, um, maybe you're ostracized, you're separated, you're being controlled, or you went through that, maybe you've overcome it and you're walking away from a situation like that. But anyway, all of those feelings and experiences are literally equivalent to certain death on the level of the nervous system because we're human beings. That's it. There is no further to go with that explanation. It is because we're human beings. That loneliness feels like death. And it's such an epidemic right now, I think, because, well, that's a whole nother tangent to get into, but I think so many people have lost touch with their authenticity, their expression, and I would say transcendental ritualistic spaces, both within themselves and within communities, where they can reach a space of connection, connection within themselves and with their communities. And part of the reason as to why that is, I think, is because we all know abuse and all this dark stuff and trafficking and, I mean, horrible, horrible things are genuinely rampant in the world right now. It's insane. It's literally everywhere. There's systemic erasure and abuse happening under your nose. I mean, it's everywhere. It really is everywhere. Um, and when you're born into a family system or a society where the collective sense of self is fragmented, that is a recipe to teach your nervous system, your little baby nervous system growing up in a world, that is a recipe to teach your nervous system to disconnect and disassociate from yourself. And what is yourself? Well, um, I don't know. What is myself? What am I? Well, I know that I'm experiencing life as a human. I know I live life through a nervous system that processes stimuli and teaches me about the world. I know that I don't like the taste of um, rotten fruit, and I know that I love the taste of ice cream, right? Because my nervous system communicates to me through feelings, through senses, in a way that helps me orient towards my reality, okay? That is a one basic understanding of what myself is, what I what I am. okay? And there's many different interpretations you can add to this, you know? I am love as well. I am Alea. I am my, in part, my personality. My personality is how I express myself, right? So, anyway, when we're born into these family systems and societies where people are taught to disassociate from themselves, they learn to repress themselves, they learn to mistrust themselves. And what happens when you don't trust yourself? You can't connect because your true experience is missing from your internal sense of self. Okay? So, what is the antidote to these shame spirals that happen when we're in isolation? Did I say that part yet? I might be jumping ahead of myself. When we're in isolation, the mind, it spirals, it creates loops, and it goes off on just self shame. And the reason that it does that is because that's your brain trying to protect your body from feeling the from feeling death, from experiencing death, essentially. So it's a really intelligent mechanism, and it's not proof that you're wrong or crazy. It's actually proof that your body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's actually proof that your humanity is alive enough to make you so uncomfortable, to be screaming at you from the inside out saying something is horribly wrong here. So if you find yourself trapped in a shame spiral, I want you to just know this first. You are not crazy. It is not you. That is literally the intelligence of your humanity that allowed us to evolve as a species up until right now. I don't even know how long humans have existed. I don't know that number. I don't know how many years it's been. But shame and mental spiraling, mental looping is a protection mechanism to protect your body from dying. It's to protect you from feeling the pain of death. Because if the mind can finally grasp a reason, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm too big, I'm too small, I'm too loud, I'm too quiet, I'm too ugly, I'm too unattractive, I'm too unlovable, whatever, anything, you name it. When the mind can finally grab onto something that seems like it convinces you that, oh, that must be the truth, then when you have that mental security or that semblance of security, it's a false security because it's a lie. And lies do protect us from seeing the truth because sometimes the truth is excruciating. We know that, right? So lies can be protective because the lie that you are not good enough protects you from how you would be treated if you actually acted like you're good enough. Because, like I was saying before, some of us are born into family systems and societies where they ostracize people. And again, I always think of Galileo. He's like my pocket example. He was ostracized and killed for perceiving space, outer space, in ways that his community did not. And this is still an epidemic today. It really is. And this is why so many of us feel so uncomfortable and unsafe in this world to be what we are. But the issue is not our expression or our authenticity. The issue is our multiple different things. I mean, this is so nuanced, but I understand and I thank God that I have the freedom and the privilege to speak, to record a video, and to post it on the internet. That is such a privilege that not everybody has in their lifetime. And so I'm here using my voice to name these things, to hopefully reach people who feel trapped under the weight of these shame spirals and these mental spirals and these lies that they've been taught to think about themselves, or that they have resorted to unconsciously just starting to believe about themselves because it was the only way to comfortably exist. But I'm here to invite you into a different way of being and remind you that again, you're not crazy, you're just surviving in a very weird world. And even if the only solace or break that you can afford from your life or the pressures of your life or your family system or your society or whatever institution, whether one that you've internalized or one that you're actively physically participating in or engaged in or that your survival is dependent on, if anything, I hope that this message can find you where you are and remind you that you are seen. You're not crazy and you're having these experiences for a reason. And I understand that survival is real and not everyone can afford to leave the systems, the families, the societies that create this feeling of a double bind. It's like, and I was in that situation at one point. And honestly, I think it's really unfair that not everybody is able to get out. Sometimes I think that, like, it's not fair that I am free from, toxic family situations that other people have to deal with. And no, I'm not going to engage in the whole victim blaming, just leave in conversation, because it's not even a conversation. It's a one-sided, judgmental, harsh, false approach to the reality that, like, people are surviving out here, people are surviving abuse, people are surviving institutionalized whatever the fuck, and not everyone can literally afford to leave. Not everyone knows how, not everyone has the capacity, the resources, the support, but I did to a certain extent, and, like, I just thank God. And that's why I speak on the internet, is because this is a privilege. This is, I mean, it's an obligation. It's not like an obligation that's like wears me down or whatever, but it is like a soul calling for me to talk about these things, share these things, so that people in less fortunate situations can still hopefully find some access to a level of sanity that's not available in your current world. So, all this is to say that, again, you are not crazy. And the reason that you are caught in a mental spiral or shame spiral is possibly because you are not experiencing belonging the way that you're meant to. Okay? I think that godliness is love and forgiveness, with boundaries, of course, and accountability, but it's grace and it's willingness to drop the ego, willingness to grow, humility, genuine humility. And you can't grow and you can't change if you're clinging to your ego. And it's tough because if you're surviving, it's like sometimes you need to keep doing what you're doing in order to survive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the kind of person who's not willing to grow. It just means that you're surviving. But I think what I'm trying to get at is that there's a difference between people who are actually safe and not immediately needing to behave in ways that they might have to behave in the toxic situation or environment to, like, actually survive and preserve their lives. So it's like when you're actually physically safe and you're not needing to survive anymore, it's like there are kind of two ways that people go. There's way number one, which is like too much rigidity and too much clinging to the ego, to the old, to pride, to self preservation. It's like there's a threshold where when you no longer need to protect yourself and you can actually afford the mental capacity, the emotional capacity to recognize that, like, you are safe to let go of some of these old ways of being and you can grow. It's like you can either be aware of that or you can stay unaware of that, and you can just stay almost prideful. I don't think prideful is the right word, but you can stay just rigid or closed off in your views. It's like you can decide that because you went through hell is the only thing that exists. It's like there are people who heal and they go forward and grow and they deepen in life, and those people are people who didn't let the trauma define what was possible for them, and I'm one of those people. And I still struggle with, past traumas and things like this. But the thing is, it's like in my heart of hearts, like I continue to come back to the choice of love and hope and openness. And, there were seasons in my life where I had to be rigid. I had to be self-protective. I couldn't afford to have any social interactions because I was so freaking wounded. So raw. Like I could not afford it. And it even affected my health to have uncomfortable social interactions with people for many months. I mean, that was the last year of my life. And then there are people who they don't even realize it, but they're just repeating these lies, these false narratives to themselves. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like when your mind can grab on to something that proves that it's safe and can be relieved of that pain, it's going to hold on to it. But unless you're ready to actually feel that pain and like descend into the depth of your soul and your emotions and like allow that trauma to just be purged out of you and to be processed and to be sat with and to allow your actual soul to come back into your body, because the trauma and the beliefs and the lies, life is hopeless, nobody's gonna love me, blah blah blah. It's like, no, you can't guarantee that you don't have proof of that. You had terrible experiences that treated you as if that was what was true, but that is not all there is to the world. That was your past. That was your past. That is not your present. If it's not your present, it's not your present. If it is, then it is your present. But it's not the only thing that exists. Although this is, again, such a tricky, nuanced conversation. I am one person sitting in front of a camera, sharing my thoughts. Some of this is probably going to be triggering to some people, and there's going to be thoughts, and I welcome a conversation. I welcome, you to share your experiences, to share where you're at, because I think it's really necessary and important to actually meet people where they're at. And I'm just sharing my thoughts off the cuff. And I know that this video isn't going to meet every single person where you're at, but I just want to say that I care about you, I see you, I love you, and I want to do whatever I can to acknowledge what you're going through and meet you where you're at to the best of my ability. And I encourage you to meet yourself where you're at too, and reject this if it's not available to you at this time in your life, in your journey, whatever, wherever you're at. But yeah, my head feels empty now, so let me just pause for a second and think. Usually that's a sign that I've said everything I needed to say. But this was a thick one. So basically the final thing I wanted to say here, the point of this video, is that it's all about the descent into the trauma, into the feelings. And how do we make that safe? We name it, we acknowledge it. We show you that you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You can trust what you feel. You can go into it. I'm telling you, you can go into it. Maybe I'm being so real with you right now. Your doctor, your therapist, the psych ward, your friends, your family, many of those people have likely seen your trauma at the surface level, and they have shut it down, they've dismissed it, they've pathologized it, or they've seen you begin to break down and they got scared. And they taught you not to trust yourself. But I trust myself, and I just want to be a beacon of encouragement for those who are just dealing with the most unfucking bearable trauma, that you can trust that your experience is real, and you can trust that there is an end, and you can trust that your lived experience is a tunnel, it's a portal, and when you go into it, you can't get lost. You can't get lost. And if you think you're lost, you're just sitting in the tunnel. And it's okay to sit there for as long as you need. This makes me think of how, and I forget what Native American culture it was, but there was some culture where, like, the society had established that anyone who went to war, whenever they came back to society, they spent 3 months in this, like, isolated, exclusive kind of container where they gently integrated back in society. They were like, I think they would like view from the outside, or maybe just like gently like enter back into the world. And we had spaces like that. We used to have spaces like that for these like literal soul retrieval level transitions, because my friend, I have heard some insane stories on my Instagram of people who shared some horrific abuse situations that they went through. Things that you don't, they're so gruesome, you don't even hear them in movie. Like, you don't even see them in horror movies. It's like that's how gruesome they are. I've heard some things worse than I think I could ever handle, honestly. And I don't even want to say them out loud because they are just obscene. Like, obscene on earth. And when you go through something like this, that literally creates a soul fragmentation. It's a disassociation so major that no institution, no relationship, no space on earth has room to hold you in the midst of this being broken apart. You are like dissolved. It's like your orientation of reality is so fucked up because of what you went through, and because there are no spaces for you on this earth. I hope this video can be somewhat of a space for you, but it's like, where are the shamans? Where are the people who've actually literally walked through hell and had the bottoms of their feet peel off from the heat and regrow? Where are those people? Where are the people who have walked through hell honestly, to witness you, to take you, to hold your hand, to be with you when you go into the void of your own soul? Maybe you get stuck in there. Maybe you collapse in there. Maybe you're in the darkness for months. Where are the people? Where are the spaces to actually validate and witness you in the middle of that? Who can hold that? That's what a hospital is supposed to be. It's supposed to be sabbatical. But we got it twisted because all they want to do is just give you drugs to repress the symptoms and treat the symptoms. But it's like, when do you ever go to a psych ward in a hospital and have you ever heard a story of someone who is having a psychotic breakdown and they go to a hospital and they're actually witnessed, they're actually given the presence that they need, they're actually told that I see you, I feel you, you're not crazy? Like, do we ever hear stories like that? Do we ever hear stories like that? And is that what we expect when we think about modern day medical psych ward, hospital institutions, whatever? When we think of mental illness, do we consider people that might have nervous systems so sensitive that they are perceiving and receiving stimuli and input and information rampantly faster than the majority of the population? Or do we just slap a label on them and call them schizophrenic or autistic or whatever? And I'm not meaning to erase schizophrenic and autistic experiences. Maybe this is a poor way of expressing this. Maybe I can do better to express this more clearly. But as someone who has survived hell, walked through hell, and received diagnoses, specifically agitated depression, blah, 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 whatever, anxiety. And you know what? I knew how to curate my responses to these doctors so that they wouldn't diagnose me with all these different things, because I didn't need those labels. And I knew that I didn't want myself to be limited to what those labels would have boxed me inside of. You know, catch me on a bad day in the middle of healing trauma of almost being trafficked, being raped, being raised by a narcissist, um, losing my dad in a plane crash when I was an infant, losing my sister to suicide, being trafficked again into a troubled teen institution, you know, being systemically erased. Catch me on a bad day where I'm integrating the trauma and going into that void and collapsing in that void and hanging out for a minute. I don't have any shamans, I don't have any guides, I don't have any people, you know, holding my hand when I'm in that hell. But I knew that if I shared the full extent and opened up intimately, transparently to healthcare providers, to mental health professionals, I could have been bipolar, I could have been schizophrenic, I could have been all these things. I don't even know. Like, all I know is that I'm a human being, I'm sensitive, and I do not deny a single ounce of my experiences. I feel everything. I perceive everything. I'm not closed. I see everything inside of myself. I feel everything inside of myself. And language is limited. There's only so many words that I can use to explain an internal psychedelic experience. And I'm not talking about doing drugs. I'm talking about being a human is wonky. It's psychedelic in nature. It is crazy. That's what I'm talking about. I don't do psychedelics. I have done a handful when I was younger, but those were in intentional, contained communal spaces, and I am very personally averse to using them. But I respect them as everything is medicine or poison. Everything has its place. It's not my path. It's not my thing. But anyway, existing is psychedelic simply because everything is deep. Everything, there's life, there's soul, there's spirit in literally everything, you know? It's endless. If you know how to feel, if you know how to connect, if you are actually in relationship with reality. And I'm going to give you an example. Look at my bookshelf. What do you see? You see a wood rectangle. Okay, see more. What else do you see? I see in my imagination the hands that created this wood. In my imagination, I see the forest where the trees that produced this wood grew. In my imagination, I see in those trees, I see pine needles, I see mist, I see mulch on the ground, I see birds flying around. What else do you see? Keep going. Well, those birds, they fly. They have an aerial perspective. They've seen so many different landscapes. You know what I mean? It's like you can literally look at a wall and have this infinite relationship. If I can look at a bookshelf and see a bird flying over hills, I mean, you can be anywhere, look at anything, feel anything. You can touch a carpet and be transported. That's what I mean when I say being a human is psychedelic. Life is psychedelic. And that's just the way that my mind works. But as I was saying, if I were to describe some of my deepest, darkest trauma experiences to mental health professionals, they could have called me whatever the fuck they wanted to call me. You know, they could have called me crazy. But I refuse to agree with that lie. That is not my orientation of life. I have seen enough to know what's real, you know, to know what's true, to know what's in front of me. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship and projection and creating these boxes and these identity labels as a means to suffocate the human experience and compress it into something more manageable, more palatable, more tolerable is the equivalent of those mental spirals. But we don't want to get stuck in our head because that takes us out of our body, that takes us out of life. We want to connect and feel and be in relationship with what is real. And yes, it does mean feeling more, which is going to be painful. But hey, it's like life is a full ass spectrum of feelings, and it's a lot easier and more satisfying and delicious and fulfilling and sexy and calming and all of it when we can experience it together. And when I say together, I mean without walls. I mean, I'm in relation with God, and so are you, in your own right, in your own world. You call it whatever you want. Your divine connection, you're present. You're present, and we're all in relationship together. But first, we need to start inside. And if you are a soul walking through life after extreme trauma, that trauma is a gateway into so many different aspects of your soul and of reality. Do not let lies distort your relationship with truth. The truth is terrifying, okay? We are mortal. We are human. We are flesh. Dark things are real. They're real. But when we have the center point, the anchor to orient ourselves. That's my cat. I don't know if you could hear her, but she's got a little cough right now and she scared me. I am channeling right now. I'm in such a zone. When we have that central anchor to take us through our own trauma and those dark parts, what do we gain? We gain clarity. We gain illumination. And what does the light do? What does clarity do? It dissolves the shadows. So as long as you are greeting your insides, your present moment, your experience, your life from a place of presence, relationality, clarity, truth, then you're protected. And it is that fucking simple, okay? Like demons and shit, they're real. But when you are in relationship with them from an anchored, present place, they dissolve. They shapeshift. That is the nature of light and dark. You can't walk into a dark room with a flashlight and be blind to what's in front of the flashlight beam. You can't. You can't. As long as you have that light, you're seeing, you know? And what is the light? Light is awareness. Light is presence. And the scary thing is, how do we initiate ourselves into that level of presence so that we don't shy away, we don't turn away? We do it bit by bit. We train our minds. Train them. We meditate. We practice being present in our relationships. We practice being present when we're reading books. We practice being present when we're making art or writing. We practice being present when we're communicating instead of just, here's a simple thing that you can try to be more present and to this is literally going to help you face more fears over time and be more embodied and heal from the trauma and the secondary trauma that these institutionalized lies and liars have placed upon you, that you're fundamentally wrong or you're pathological because you're a human experiencing something that nobody knows how to touch or handle. Start with this. Next time you have a conversation with someone and they say, "How are you?" Listen, you don't owe them your life, your vulnerability, your story. You don't owe them anything except for basic decency. But next time you have an interaction like that, actually ask yourself, how am I? And at least acknowledge to yourself how you are. You can make up words or you can name what you feel. You can say, I'm like sparkly right now. I feel like black inside. I feel green inside. I feel angry. I feel powerful. I feel like my chest wants to pump out or speak or whatever. It's like just scan yourself internally and acknowledge what's there and what's real. And that is one small way to build presence and attunement with yourself that can sustain your capacity to be present in those very dark spaces that are like borderline like shamanistic to walk through. I think that's how I would define a shaman, is someone who can navigate, unseen realms, who can navigate literally uncharted realms because they possess this clarity and this presence and this relational quality within themselves. So they project that outwards. And this is what I do, and I'm not perfect by any means, but again, I've seen enough to know that this works, and this has helped me reclaim my sanity that like the devil stole from me. Wetico stole from me. Leviathan stole from me through narcissistic abuse, institutionalized abuse, trafficking, erasure, systemic abuse, whatever. All of those things, I grew up in all of those things. They were like constant weights in my life. Constant. Oh, my baby. She's got a respiratory issue. Are you okay? That is so spooky to me. That's the scariest thing. That's the scariest thing for me. Oh my goodness, hold on. This is my summons. It's bedtime for us, and it's humidifier time for her. I've been keeping her in front of a humidifier to help her with her, I think it's the dry air over here because we just moved to the desert recently. But yeah, I'm going to end this now, and just the more that you build presence within yourself, the more that the lies are going to fall away, and the easier it's going to become for you to just exist in the world. And you're not going to feel so much pressure. She's rubbing her face on my computer. You're not going to feel so much pressure for existing in the world in a way that not everyone can understand. And you are going to have to face that you are different. And people look at you and you're an anomaly and you make no sense to a lot of people, because all of the institutions and the people that kind of have fallen into this cozy system where they're comfortable with the mental spirals, aka the lies, aka let's just use drugs to mask your symptoms so we don't have to actually witness you break the fuck down and like have a freaking exorcism. It's like nobody wants to see that. Nobody makes room for that. But that is that is a reality of surviving trauma, because it lives in your body, and you need to actually meet those all this the shit inside. And you don't owe that to anybody. You do not owe that to anybody because that's sacred and it's private. However, there are people and spaces on this earth, and I'm one of them. To what extent, I don't know. Like, don't test me because I don't want to find out. I only know to the extent of my own life experience and then the things I've seen. It's like there are people and spaces on earth designed to or equipped to navigate the spaces beneath thought, language, containment, or maybe not containment, but structure. I don't know. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And I hope that you give yourself even just a little bit of that presence. And don't be afraid, because what I'm talking about sounds probably dramatic and scary, and it is sometimes. But the same things that I'm talking about, I practice them and achieve them in very small ways during my day-to-day through just being present, witnessing, feeling, and observing. And, I love a good distraction sometimes. I love a good cozy movie or game or craft or whatever. It's like life doesn't have to be so serious and deep and scary and insane and profound all the time. that lightness is equally important because we're not designed to be in the depth all the time. Um, it's just, I mean, we all have to sleep and we all have to eat, you know? It's like we have limitations, human limitations. So, anyway, with that, I hope that this helped you, back to the beginning of this video, navigate, you know, that kind of shame mental spiral. It's like you're not crazy. And if you can't afford to feel those deep, hard feelings, I think just at least acknowledging, like, next time you feel like you're going crazy or like the shame spiral begins, you can just say out loud to yourself or inside, say internally to yourself, like, okay, this is my body resisting something so painful that I lived. This is my body protecting me from feeling pain that maybe I can't feel right now. And that's okay. There's a reason why sabbaticals exist, and there's a reason why, I mean, hospitals were created like sabbaticals, like so people could rest. And I'm not promoting going to the psych ward or whatever if that's not up your alley or going to help you. And I mean, for some people, maybe it'll help, and like power to you. But what I'm saying is, it's like you should be met, and nothing you're experiencing is invalid or wrong or fundamentally crazy. It's like, what does that even mean? It's just, no, you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and that makes you a human. I don't care if I have a reference point to it or not. It's an experience, and you're living it, and so it's real, and so that means you're human. Um, so, just be kind, be gentle with yourself. I wish that I could just give you all the love in the universe right now, everything that you needed. I wish I could give it to you. Um, and I hope that, yeah, you just take care of yourself and you take it easy, and you dive deep if you want to dive deep, and you give yourself permission to breathe and cry and scream and to have that catharsis. Or, just be gentle, be peaceful, be patient with yourself, be present with yourself, whatever. That's all I got for now. I'll see you next time.